Hi, this is Richard and Craig.
Yeah, I hardly recognise this guy.
I
It's
know.
been weeks.
Actually in the studio for once, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it is good that we spend a lot of time travelling around Australia, travelling the world, teaching mindfulness, isn't it? It's great that it's become such a popular thing, but it does sometimes make it hard to get in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with all the learners again for this week.
For this week, or the final week's feedback video, 8,500 learners on this run of the course. So that's
Fantastic.
amazing. Some real and such great conversation as usual.
Yeah.
Some really interesting stuff coming up. I mean, this is a particularly interesting course, I think, because it asks the big questions.
Yeah.
And it gets people to look really deeply. And I really love that some of the learners have been talking about waking up. You know, there's this metaphor, I guess, with mindfulness of waking up. It's like when we're in that default mode, it's like we're kind of asleep, really, you know, daydreaming away. And all.
We're in the Matrix.
In the Matrix, that's right.
But
Very
some
much.
people have taken the red pill.
Very much blue pill. And all of a sudden we pop that little red pill and there we are. And it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because if we can wake up out of that trance, let's say, of daydreaming and obsessing and whatever else is going on in the default
kind
mode.
of a mechanical automatic pilot, and, with...
Yeah, if we wake up out of that for a moment and then, of course, fall back into it the next moment, if we were to practice and have more and more of those moments, what would that potentially lead to?
Yeah. And some interesting discussion about how that helps us to start to be more aware of what motivates us,
Yes.
what our values are. And perhaps sometimes we say, oh, well, I sacrifice my values by doing this instead. And maybe we do on one level, but maybe on another level we're valuing something else more.
So these are the parents who are asking questions around, you know, how do I sort of, you know, take care of my own needs and values if I'm raising kids?
Yeah. And if we're putting something else first, then we must value something else more.
Yes.
And we really need to have a look at that, because if we have a look at it, then we can make a more conscious decision. Well, wait a second, am I putting something that's really not that valuable first? And I am sacrificing something more important. But mind you, sometimes following our real values means that we have to be accepting.
Yeah.
We have to be able to accept the challenge, the difficulties with pursuing something that is perhaps a more deeply valued thing.
Yeah.
We have to be able to let go of something that is perhaps of less importance. But we need to be really pretty consciously aware to choose our values carefully.
Well, I think that's true, isn't it? It really takes a lot of awareness, because certainly a lot of people do put their needs aside to take care of somebody else, whether it's a carer or a parent. Or you know, meet somebody else's sort of values, I guess you could say, without a whole lot of awareness and consciousness. And that usually leads to things like stress and burnout and even resentment. I think that's a pretty big symptom. If we're putting our needs aside to prioritise someone else's needs out of habit, maybe start to get this growing sense of resentment that you're doing that. And that's, of course, a very different thing to consciously choosing to be there as a parent or as a carer or make sacrifices like that.
Yeah, or maybe we don't stand for a principle that we kind of believe in, but for whatever pragmatic or reason we kind of, we don't stand for it. And, maybe there's a small wrong that we don't feel easy about, but, it'd be too much trouble. And I guess it's important to be mindful afterwards. Well, what's the effect of sacrificing a principle? What was the effect? Because we might find that it kind of leaves an uneasiness in the mind is kind of and we need to pay attention to that.
I reckon that's even there at the time if we're really paying attention, if we're about to say or do something that's not in alignment with our core values. There can be this kind of inner knowing or inner discomfort that's maybe not what we want to be doing. Yeah,
or to do or say something that's cruel, and to actually notice that we can actually feel it at the time. But we have to be aware, but even if we do, is then not to necessarily engage in vitriolic self-criticism, but to be conscious of the effect of it and to be conscious of what motivated at the time the thing that we did or said that perhaps we're later on sort of to some extent regret.
I think that's true, isn't it? And a lot of our learners have been noticing these habits and sort of stepping out of them, which is great. But then perhaps, you know, being a little harsh or self-critical or even just regretting that they hadn't learnt this earlier or that they've been doing this all their life. And
well, we're all a work in progress.
Big time, right?
Including you and I?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
And perhaps, you know, some self-compassion is also required here as well. If we see that we've been doing something maybe for our entire life that really isn't serving us, Well, that's a good moment of realising that. I mean, that's stepping out of that trance, isn't it? That's a moment of waking up big time. But then if we then judge ourselves and criticise ourselves for doing that, and why didn't I learn this earlier, or why have I been doing this all my life, perhaps that's straight back into some kind of habitual habit. And perhaps a healthier way of looking at that would be to say, well, I'm glad I can see this. Even if I keep falling back into this habit, perhaps I'm not just going to keep autopiloting in that, but also perhaps to be a little bit kinder to ourselves.
And it's interesting to see some of the subtle changes that happen quite naturally as a part of being mindful. When people become more mindful, they become more prosocial, interested in the well-being of others.
Yes.
Because we unhook from our own internal dialogue about what I want or myself, etc. And when we engage our attention more with the world around us, the people around us, then there's quite a natural sort of sense of concern for the well-being of others, and we actually feel this sort of compassion and connection with others. And so this sort of sense of being prosocial, as the term that's used for it, is a natural part of being mindful.
And I think that's a beautiful point, that perhaps that's actually our natural state, our innate nature, and it gets kind of covered over with stuff, with default mode type stuff and reactivity and habits and patterns and conditioning. And when we step out of that and get back in touch with perhaps what's actually more our true nature, we do tend to actually be quite empathic and compassionate and loving.
Yeah, and at peace with ourselves. Yeah. So lots of comments too about the fear of failure and avoid making or sharing goals. And look, in my own experience, and I'm not sure if there's research on this, but I've found that when there's a clear kind of goal in mind, sometimes it's just made very quietly. And it's not something that has to be declared all over the place. But I can remember when I ran my first marathon or thought of writing a play, or wrote a full-length play which produced some years ago, it just came up as a sort of a quiet sort of internal nod. But I didn't say anything about it, but I was interested to just see what happened, and what happened next was I just started to act on that goal. And it was a kind of a momentum that built on itself and came to fruition sometimes.
Wait, so you didn't put it on Instagram?
What's Instagram? If you don't know me already, I don't even know what social media is. I'm so not of this millennium, I can tell you.
Yeah, but so it was more of just a quiet inner decision for you. You didn't have to broadcast it to the world. You didn't have to tell everybody, okay, these are my values now. It's just... And because very often when we do that, we're either doing it out of a bit of gusto or, a bit of sort of short-term enthusiasm, but we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as well. And sometimes it's better to just And then, of course, you're going to have a fear of failure, because what if I don't live up to this thing that I've just broadcast to the world via my social media channels?
Big statement, and all of a sudden, so it creates quite a lot of tension. So sometimes it's better to be quiet with them.
So this is more of a listening and then a quiet sort of commitment to our own values, and then just sort of putting that into action.
And just see what happens. Lots of different ways of people being mindful, eating. One example given about chocolate, eating less chocolate because eating it more mindfully and really savouring the experience. And maybe we could apply that to other things as well, like if we enjoy a glass of wine, well, many people say they drink too much wine, but maybe we just need to make sure that we actually taste it rather than just quaff it down.
To really enjoy it.
And we might find that we enjoy it more, but we might drink less.
I've never been able to figure out if expensive wine tastes better because it's actually better quality or because we just drink it mindfully and enjoy it more and savour it.
Well, I have seen research. It was marketing research, actually. Or from a marketing journal. No, it was actually from a marketing journal, and they... and they also, excuse me, you'll have to edit those ones out.
Just leave them in.
But they also did MRIs when people were tasting wine. And they tasted a series of wines, but it included the same wine, but an expensive one with a cheap price tag, or a cheap one with an expensive price tag. And when they tasted the same wine, the price tag on it, if it was an expensive one, the enjoyment was much more, not just in what they said, but actually in the pleasure centres in the brain. It was a really good wine, but a cheap price tag, they didn't enjoy it nearly so much.
That's fascinating, isn't it? So the upshot is just savour whatever we're doing, whether it's food, wine, or any pleasant experience, and we're just going to enjoy it more, whether it's expensive or not. And perhaps even those little moments throughout the day, the sun shining through the trees, someone smiling at us, hitting send on that email, maybe that could even just be a moment of simple joy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe we just miss all of those moments that are all around us.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Which of course comes to that this notion of pausing, which again a lot of our learners were talking about this week.
Yeah.
That sacred pause. You know, we're so caught up in the busyness of life, the thinking, the doing, the reacting, all those habits and judgments, that just to pause in any moment and even just for a moment take ourselves out of that is a really powerful thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to step out of whatever habitual pattern we're in and have a moment of clarity where in the next moment we can perhaps choose more clearly what we want to do.
Yeah. And Victor Frankl, well-known, well-published author, and wonderful man, but he spoke about that
quote, that space.
Yeah, that space. And the language of mindfulness wasn't used there, but in that space, that between, the capacity to notice and to respond, there's that ability to choose. And that's a conscious moment. We have to be awake to even realize that window of opportunity is open.
Yeah, and pausing and mindfulness in general just kind of grows that space, doesn't it? I mean, that's one way of thinking about it. We're increasing the space, and then we can make more and more choices and wed that with a deep listening so we can make really good choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least not the wrong choice.
Not the wrong one, over and over again.
May not know what
for
the
rest
right
of
one
our
is,
lives.
but just doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yeah. So look, I guess that's the end of this run of the course. Obviously not the end of mindfulness as a practice. This is a lifelong thing, as you said before. We're works in progress. All of our learners must be obviously in the same boat. So strongly encourage people to keep practicing whatever's sort of, really grabbed you from the course. Keep practicing that, keep applying it, keep paying attention to it. The materials, of course, are available for another 2 weeks, unless you upgrade. If you want to have these materials forever, feel free to upgrade the course, so then you can sort of download them and keep them.
Yeah.
Our next course actually starts Mindfulness for Wellbeing and Peak Performance, which is our first course, so sort of the part 1 of this one.
Yeah.
It starts on July the 1st, and you can sign up for that already if you want to.
Yeah. I look forward to being with you then if you do.
Yeah, lots of learners as well, of course, feeling sad about the course finishing up. But I mean, I guess that's a good thing, isn't it? It really shows that they've maybe connected with others and that there's some real value in this.
Yeah.
And I guess we'd just like to thank everybody for their contribution, for your sharing and for supporting one another.
And Monash University's done so much to make this available and to support this course, and it's tremendous. To provide a course like this for free, and all the work that goes in behind the scenes is tremendous.
There's a bit happening behind the scenes, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Oscar and Liz, our mentors. Thank you for your amazing work.
Yeah, and the wonderful team behind the camera. Rowan over here, Kat over there. And
just out of you. Can never get them on camera, right?
No, we've tried. I cannot tell you how many times we've tried, but they will not. Yeah. Rowan, you sure you don't want to put your head in camera? No.
No. Okay, we'll see you on the next run of the course.
Yeah.
You can't edit that out. That's embedded. That's embedded content.